Hello painters, it's Debbie at acrylicpouring.com, and today, disaster has struck. My DIY store is out of Floetrol. I've got a tiny little bit left in this bottle. It's because of all the hurricanes that we've had this year in the Caribbean region. The whole shipping in the region is completely up in the air. Things aren't getting delivered when they're supposed to be. Things are stuck in transit in all various different places. So my DIY store is out of Floetrol. I don't have any left in reserve. I've used all of it up. However, what I did find was this one. The label is kind of wonky. This is called ThinX. It's a latex paint thinner, brush cleaner and conditioner. So I thought I would give this one a try because I know there are lots of people out there who can't get the Floetrol. So there are other products on the market. This one, ThinX, is one that I can get. You might find also one called XIM, which is a latex paint extender, and there's also one called Zinnsser. So depending where you are in the world, you may not get the Floetrol, or it may be out of stock or just prohibitively expensive. So let's try something else. So this one is like water. So when I pour it out into a cup, it's clear, it looks like water, it even smells like water. It says 100% solvent free, odorless, biodegradable, and reading all of the stuff on the back, contains no harmful detergents or toxic ingredients, safe for septic systems. So it sounds good, but how is it going to react in a pour? Well, for one, it's completely like water, so it's different to some of the other additives that you might add to your paint. I've mixed 4 colours in advance: a white, a chrome yellow, a magenta and a cobalt blue, and I had to spend quite a lot of time working on the paint consistency because I've been so used to using Floetrol, using a different product, adding it in a different way. I wasn't really sure about the paint consistency, and that sounds so weird, but having got used to one using a completely different product, it was kind of difficult. In terms of how things mixed up, I have found that for some reason adding the Zinnsser to the white and the magenta made loads of bubbles, the white especially. For some reason the blue and the yellow, no bubbles. So I've no idea why that is. Here's my paint consistency. I've got it a little different, I think, to how I normally do, and I have a feeling that these paints are probably thinner than I normally have them. But because I was using a different product, you know, even the weight of it felt different, the way I was mixing it in felt different, everything felt kind of different. So I think they're all fine, but I would say the paints feel less creamy. Normally when I'm using Floetrol, especially this yellow feels weird, it's kind of blobby. When I use the Floetrol, it feels kind of creamy, you know, but when I use this one, it doesn't feel the same. It feels less elastic, if you get my meaning. So we will see how it turns out. So I'm going to make 4 mini flip cups today, and I've bought some new little cups. Look at these. These made me so happy to find them. They're little 2-ounce cups I found in my local supermarket, little shot glasses, and I thought, oh my god, those are so cute. I've got to have them. They may be too cute, actually. They may be too small, but we will see what happens. And I've got 4 tiles set up. So I'm going to have a little bit of an experiment with paints, and I thought we will see how it turns out with the flips, but I'm not too worried about how they come out today, because actually what I want to do is use these 4 tiles in an upcoming experiment when I'm going to talk about silicone, varnishing and resin. So we're not too worried about how they come out today. So this is the treadmill belt lubricant that I'm going to add, and I'm going to add 2 drops to each colour. Actually the magenta, let's go 3 because there's a bit more paint. 2 in that one, and the white, I've got a lot of paint, so let's add 4 or 5 to that one, and then I'm going to give them a good stir in so that they're well mixed into the paint. And the magenta, give it a good stir, and the blue, and the yellow. So the yellow was the bottom of one of my bottles. It's the last dregs in the bottle, and it came out kind of clumpy and it didn't mix very well, so it could be that when it dries we're going to get clumps in it, but I am not in the mood to be straining it today because there's such a little amount in there, so I'm just going to go for it. So let's put the colours off to one side and bring up my little bitty flip cups. Oh, these make me so happy, they're so cute. Okay, so the paints are all done. I'm just going to make up the 4 little flip cups with all of the paint in. and we'll see how we get on. I'm not even going to worry too much about adding the same into each one. It really doesn't matter. I'm not too bothered about what these are going to look like. We will be using them in an upcoming experiment because I want to see if there's other ways that we can deal with the silicone in our paint other than having to clean it all off when we want to varnish or resin. So I'm going to do a little experiment with these 4 tiles later on with all of the silicone that we've got in them and see how we get on with varnishing or resin and see if there's any other ways that we can deal with it. Okay, so that's 2 colours. Let's go a bit more. This cup's a bit empty, so let's go. Ooh, oh yeah, this yellow's lumpy. That's what happens, I think. I try and use every little bit because paints are kind of precious to me. So I use every little bit at the bottom of the jar, and sometimes I think I'm picking out bits that were probably best left in the jar, left in the bottle and not used at all. And my magenta. Go with that one, a bit more in this one, this cup's a bit low, a bit more there, and a bit more here. So now all of our little flip cups there. I should have mixed a bit more paint probably, but hell, it'll do. Like I said, it's an experiment. These are all going to end up being potentially ruined anyway when it comes to the silicone and that later on. And the resin, so I'm not too bothered. So let's give them a flip and let's see what happens. Number 1, number 2, number 3, number 4, and now we will see if these little cups and how much I've put in them are enough to cover the tiles. Let's lift them up and go. And we'll also see how this Zinnsser performs. And whether we get cells in the same way that I do with Floetrol. Oh, those are cute. Or whether it looks kind of different, or... So it seems to be coming out very similar to how it normally does. I think I've got the consistency about right there. And I think I've got enough paint also. So these little cups are kind of cute. And the last one, and off we go. So looking at them straight out of the cups, there are cells, and there's some really beautiful cells in some of these areas. Oh, that's nice too. But I feel that I don't have as many cells as when I use Floetrol in silicone. So that's interesting, but shall we torch? Let's torch. I'm going to torch these 2 that are closest to me. Whoa! Well, that certainly gave an explosion of cells, especially around here. The magenta not so much, that didn't react. Let's go this one. Whoa! Now that is nice. That is very, very nice. I'm liking that one, but I'm not going to torch these others. Let's just see what happens. So let's get myself in there. Let's get down and dirty. And I'm going to move these around and see if I can cover the tiles. Also see how any of these cells react, whether any of it's breaking up as I move it. So there's our tile number 1. Let's see what happens with all of these cute cells on this one. Oh, it's a bit green. Green! It's good. Looking good. I need to give my hands a bit of a wipe. Let's see, you still in frame? Yes, everything looks good. So these are the ones that I didn't torch. Let's move these around, cover our tile. This one's very blue. Lost all the magenta in that one. It happens. They don't exactly look like a set. See, that's funny. That one's very magenta and blue. This one's kind of green. That one's just blue. This one had a lot of white in, so yes, it's not surprising. So I did put a lot of white in this cup. And there we go. Okay, so I'm just going to go in and wash up my hands, and then we'll come back and take another look. Okay, I'm all cleaned up. So I torched these back 2 to start with, so let's torch these front 2 now and see if it makes any difference after the tilt. Whoa! Wowzers! Okay, and this one. Wowzers again. So, I am pleasantly surprised at this stuff. I would say that I am getting more cells with this one, and especially with the torch, than I ever got with the Floetrol. With the Floetrol, I'm kind of at the point now where when I add the torch, it really doesn't do much because the cells have kind of already formed. Whereas with this product, I didn't get a whole bunch of cells out of the cup, but when I torched, wow, the cells really popped up. So here you can see the cells are larger on these back two. Let me see if I can adjust the camera a little bit. So on these back two, because I'd made the cells before tilting, these cells are now larger. And here I'd made these cells after tilting, so these cells are now smaller. But the cells are really good. Nothing broke up, they all look well defined, the colours are good, the paints moved the way I expected them to, and with torching, it created a really great effect. So this is the ThinX that I've used, very similar to the XIM or the Zinnsser. Very watery. Now I've deliberately not given you any kind of ratio for how much I mix with my paints, because in all honesty I didn't really make much of a note of that, because each colour needed a different amount. The white, for example, needed a different amount from the blue. The yellow was the bottom of my bottle, it was kind of thick and gloopy, that needed a different amount. And of course you may be using paints that already have a different consistency to the ones that I am using. So I would say, if you can't get the Floetrol, or it's prohibitively expensive, try one of these other products that you can get from your local DIY store, because they seem to work really well. I've actually been really pleasantly surprised. I will still buy more Floetrol when it comes in stock, but I'll probably also do a few more pours with this one now that I've bought it too, and just see the difference. Maybe a bit of mix and match will be sometime in my future. So enjoy yourselves, enjoy your pours. I'm going to bring the camera down now and show you some of the details of these ones, and then in a future video I'm going to take these ones and we'll use them for our silicone and resin experiment. So here's some close-ups. These are the two that were closer to me. So these are the ones where I used the torch before I tilted them, and of course the cells came out much larger in these ones because they were formed after the tilt, before the tilt rather. So those look good. The cells have all formed really nicely. Nothing's broken up. With the tilt it looked really good. And then these are the ones at the front where I added the torch after the tilt, and as you can see, absolutely covered in cells. Really good. I was very pleasantly surprised at how nice these were and how well readily it formed with the torch. And there is this one, and again it's got really good cells, absolutely covered, formed really well with the torch. Really nice nice tiles. So follow on in the follow-up video to this one, and we'll have a look at various ways of dealing with the silicone.